Today we're diving deep into the world of Tudor homes right here in the heart of Wisconsin.
Stick around if you've ever wondered what makes these Tudor homes so charming.
We'll be right back in just a moment.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right, so welcome back. And what do you think, Russ? First of all, Russ, you Tudor homes, come on. Like,
Yeah,
the historical significance of a Tudor home for you.
they're like two a dime in the UK. Well, not so much a dime, but...
Okay,
yeah.
two a dime. I don't even know what that word means, which is funny because...
Cheap.
Yeah,
No,
but two a
there's
dime...
a lot of them, but they're not cheap.
Yeah, but what's ironic about that phrase, two a dime, is
Yeah.
that you don't have dimes in the UK, but that
No.
is a UK saying. That is not an
Yeah.
American saying.
No,
but
I
you
know.
guys don't have dimes. Anyway, Tudor homes, of course, as most people know, originated in the UK. And so they are all over the place. They originated in the 1600s during the Tudor period.
Yeah, and the reason it's called Tudor period is because...
That was the ruling party.
King Henry VIII his family was Tudor.
Oh. However, the Tudor style has a lot of heritage. Also, it has a very German look to it. When you think about it, it's a lot of people associate it with Germans, and because a lot of the German immigrants, when they came over to the U.S. in the early 1900s, they loved that style because there's a lot of it in Europe in general, and they brought it with them when they came. And I think what's interesting in this area is that, of course, the Tudor period was back even before the 1600s, earlier than that, in the 1500s, but in the U.S., when we're talking about Tudor homes, there was a revival of it in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And especially in this area, what you saw three different styles of homes coexisting at the same time in builders in the early 1900s, like from about 1910 to just pre-war.
Yeah, to pre-Second World War.
So your average general person would have been building something along the lines of a craftsman style, what we would consider a craftsman style home, right? Your really high level CEOs, etc., were working with people like Frank Lloyd Wright. We've already covered that in another video, so go check that out on the channel. That's also in this same playlist of these architectural styles. So Frank Lloyd Wright and the prairie style, that side of craftsman, as opposed to the more... because there are two different types of craft. Like you've got prairie style homes, which is like Frank Lloyd Wright. Then you have the craftsman style homes.
Yeah, and like the Frank Lloyd Wright was all about bringing the outside in, but facing away from the road. And
very
very
simplistic design. All right. So essentially, the average person was building in this time period, like between World War I and World War II, basically.
Yeah.
The average person was building a basic craftsman style home, getting their kit from Sears or wherever, or having a local builder do that style of home.
They did them in kits?
Yes, in kits, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was a new thing.
Oh, no, it was more of a kit. You'd go into the Sears catalog and they'd ship you everything you needed for the house, and then you had a local builder come in and actually assemble it. So, yeah, I know, like Legos.
Like Lego.
Yeah, exactly. I knew where your brain was going. Anyway, so the average person, though, would have that. However, those who were affluent, so the kind of people now who might build a custom home are the ones who built either prairie style in Racine or, which we talked about that in a previous video, the prairie style, the Frank Lloyd Wright influence on the craftsman, but either prairie style or Tudor.
Wow.
And what did you find that I thought was really interesting as far as how that demographic kind of played out on those, who chose what?
A previous video on the Frank Lloyd Wright, the prairie style, that was mainly company owners, the CEOs of their day.
Yeah. And the people who had startup companies and things of that nature. And of course, some of the well-established families like S.C. Johnson.
Yeah.
But
with the Tudor style, it seems to be, it was the secretary treasurers or CFOs as
Right.
they are today.
Right. What we would call today the CFOs and the COOs. Those people who were like still upper management, vice presidents, presidents of companies, but they weren't the actual owners. They weren't the actual they were movers and shakers.
Yeah.
They were still in the top echelon, the top 15% of people in Racine, but they were not necessarily the actual owners. They were the people that were the support to the
because,
owners.
it's surprising that it wasn't the CEOs really on these because, this is all about showing your wealth.
Well, and maybe that was part of it, is that the CFOs and stuff, they kind of came up from more humble beginnings, whereas a lot of the owners already had some wealth in their family that they were just building. So that might be actually part of what it was. And you're right, a Tudor home was actually about flash.
Yeah.
It was about being a bit flashy, and not necessarily trashy, because they're very elegant homes.
Oh yeah, they're very
so
nice.
it's not about being trashy, but it was about maybe it was just more of the type of personalities. They were more exuberant in their home style, whereas your CEOs and your owners were more exuberant in their personal style. They wanted it really calm, chill at home. So the Tudors were built mostly by the CFOs and the COOs. And like we said, this is between World War I and World War II. And there was a huge influx of Germans into this area again between the two wars. There was a big influx in the 1800s. And that's how Milwaukee got started in all the beer things, which is of course just over just around the corner from us. But then in the early 1900s, there was a huge amount of people who were in Germany, didn't want to be part of Germany's previous war and didn't really like what was happening. And so they moved over to the States, and they found a home here because there were so many Germans in the Milwaukee area. They kind of found a home here in Racine as this little subculture for a while. Italians as well at the same time. And they were some of the ones who did the Edwardian Italianate style homes that we talked about last time, or a couple of times ago. But the Tudor, of course, has some really cool features to it. So let's talk about what the features are.
So they generally have these oak beams that you can see from the outside.
Yes.
So they're framed, typical UK ones is they're framed in oak and then they fill in the gaps with wattle and daub. Whereas in the States, they still have the
regular construction
showing, but they fill in the spaces with stone and brick or stucco.
And that's not entirely the fact, because it's not really that the oak structure isn't showing over here, because it was so much further along in construction. It was not a matter of filling them in. It was more of they were decorative, placed on the outside.
They were placed on the outside.
Right. They were decorative. They were not necessarily put there as, they were not constructed like the original Tudors, but they were meant to look like the original Tudors. So they still had the very pitchy roofs, very
the
very
big
steep
chimneys, very ornate, big, large chimneys.
Yep. And they have those lines, the straight lines going down, and those, it's almost like there's boxes around the windows, that they don't have a lot of shutters. There's some shutters, but not usually a lot. Oh, and the windows, like you were saying before, they have lead. They're like lead windows.
Yeah, lead
panes.
Lead glass. Yeah,
the crystal lead type panes.
Leaded glass panes, and they'll have multiple panes to each window.
Yeah, they actually were doing double panes at that time. They just weren't movable panes. So it wasn't like the windows weren't necessarily movable, but double pane windows were actually in style, and they were already recognizing the insulatory value of them in the early 1900s between World War I and World War II.
Yeah.
But the height of the Tudor style was really in the 1920s. And then I think after the crash of the stock market, I think they went out of vogue in a way just because people didn't have the money to spend on that ornate decorative exterior style. Because it did take a lot of extra decorating on the outside to do that. So when the nation plunged into the Great Depression, then at the end of the 20s and the early 30s, then of course there weren't as many Tudor homes being built because not as many people had a lot of money.
Yeah. And
those that
also
did have
the
money
upkeep as well.
And those that did have money unless they were in a big city, but in the Midwest in general, if you did have money in the Midwest, you weren't being flashy about it.
You didn't flaunt it.
You certainly weren't pointing out to your neighbors that you were doing very well while they were starving,
Yeah.
you know. So you weren't putting it on your home. You might be doing it into the philanthropy or things of that nature. You weren't flaunting it on your own personal home. So in these Tudor style homes, you've got the gables as well, because gables are a really big part of a Tudor home.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have not just roofs, but you're going to have gabled roofs. And there's going to be those windows sticking out. Very
Yeah, the
pitched.
dormer windows coming out.
Essentially what we would refer to now as a dormer window. But the architectural style is considered a gabled area. And then they did have like some decent front porches sometimes as well.
Oh, yeah.
With the still carrying on that decorative style of the exposed beam.
Yeah, generally they were open porches, but
Yes.
they're very ornate with the decoration and very large.
Yes, very large, expansive porches. They still did have, they had bay windows, and some had bay windows, some did not, but a lot of them had bay windows that stuck out, especially in the front. And again, that was more about that exterior decorative aspect, and they still carry that on, even in modern Tudor style homes. And I actually wish, what I have not seen recently very much of is I haven't seen, you just don't see neighborhoods that are Tudor. Craftsman style homes have come back in vogue, and the builders are doing those style of homes, but nobody's really revived the Tudor, and I don't know why entirely, because it can't be that expensive to just paint the extra pieces.
Yeah,
and slap them on the outside.
I know lumber costs are a bit higher.
Yeah, but most of them are hardy board.
Yeah.
You could just do it in hardy board and make the stripes with a dark hardy board over the light, and that wouldn't make any, that would be really easy to do. So I just think it would be really interesting to see the Tudor style come back in with a modern flair.
because they do look so opulent.
Well, and
really
the few that I have seen, but mostly pictures online, I've not seen any Tudor style in this area that's new.
No.
But I would love to see it, because the ones I have seen, they just look really elegant and really cool. So I think that'd be really nice. But also, just to let people know, we still have all overall in this area, it kind of is like the prairie. There's about 5% of the homes in this area that are prairie style.
Yeah.
Frank Lloyd Wright influence or directly Frank Lloyd Wright homes.
Yeah, so there's several areas in Racine where you can see these. You know, the
downtown
Tudor
area
style houses.
Yeah.
You've got like the Orchard Street in the
in Racine
historic district, and you've got the Melvin.
Yep, up on the north side you've got Melvin. On the west side you've got Orchard, but not a lot on Orchard. But primarily you'll see them on Wisconsin College, Main
Street.
Those are where the vast majority of them are. There are some, like you said, up on the north side, mostly rimming the lake, because these were wealthy people. They either had a view of the lake or were very close to the lake to access it. And so, you know, they had that opulence. I think it's interesting that you found out about Main Street at that time, having extended. So people talk about, this is just a little bonus for everybody. It has not a lot to do with Tudor homes, but at the same time, these Tudor homes were being built, and some of them they were built on this land that we're about to talk about. The Main Street in Racine now only runs to 16th Street, and then it goes down a hill to like a 17 to 1800 numbers on Main Street, but ends at the end there.
Yeah.
And what did you find out?
Well, originally the land between 16th and 21st Street,
so 5 whole blocks,
all owned by one guy. And he decided to parcel it up into 34 lots. And they extended Main Street all the way through to 21st until a big chunk of it fell into Lake Michigan.
So it's interesting because we've had some of these erosion issues in the last few years.
Yeah.
But this time it's not really about erosion. I mean, we have erosion this last few years, but there was erosion even back in the 20s and the 30s.
Yeah.
So,
and in actual fact, out of the 34 lots, only 9 were actually built on.
So it's interesting that a lot of people talk about climate change causing the erosion on Lake Michigan, but it's not. This has been going on for centuries.
Yeah.
It's been happening all along. So I found that really fascinating to find out that there used to be Main Street used to go all the way through.
All the way through to 21st.
Yeah.
And then the bit between 16th and 17th, disappeared.
Well, it didn't completely disappear because it still goes to 17th, but it's
Down a hill.
it's
now.
more like from 18th. It's like it actually ends at about 17, between 16 and 17. Then it goes down a hill.
Yeah.
And then at 17 it ends. And then it picks back up onto that little slip of a
Yeah.
road on about 18. So like there's like 2 whole blocks that used to be there and they just
So,
aren't
and
there.
it was actually saying the last house on that row, on the old Main Street, is a Tudor home as
Is
well.
a Tudor home.
Yeah.
Cool. So there are about 5% of the homes here in Racine that are Tudor style. So if you come into town or you're in town, take a drive downtown and see the Tudor homes and just kind of
Yeah.
look at a few of them. There's quite a few in the downtown. I would say
Yeah.
the best
And,
bet you have is to go down Main Street and then go all the way up to Melville.
And they're not. I mean, there's been a few for sale,
yeah.
and you can buy them for. I mean, one's up for sale for 275 when we go to press now.
Right.
But the other side is one was up for sale for 1.5 million.
Yeah, so it really depends on where in town it is and what size it
Yes.
is. Because Tudor homes, again, it's a style, not necessarily a size.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more wealthy somebody is, the larger it was, and things of that nature. So, yeah, so that's Tudor homes, guys, and at least how they are here in Racine. They're primarily made from brick, sometimes with like hardy board nowadays on the top half, or stucco to
Yep.
show off those dark beams that are one of the classic
Yeah, and that's the
features.
thing. It's highlighting the beams.
Absolutely. So, and they usually have just a traditional shingle roof. Sometimes cedar shake, though. Sometimes
Yes.
there's a cedar shake roof. In England, they use slate for the roofs.
Yeah.
But also, I saw one that was modern that had over the bay windows had the metal roofs, and I thought that looked really cool. And
yeah,
I actually
because
think
you can now get the metal that looks like shingles.
yeah, but this was actually a metal roof that looked like metal. I actually think a metal roof would look really cool with the Tudor style
Yeah.
as an updated, as a whole, even across the whole house. I think it'd look kind of cool.
Yeah,
It'd
I
really
do.
show off. So, but anyway, that is Tudor Homes here in Racine and in the surrounding areas. If you would like to know more, do us a favor. If you want to know more about this, just go click like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. That way you'll know more and more about what's
drop
happening.
a comment because we love to hear from you.
Yes, absolutely.
And we
don't
do get
always-
round to replying to them.
Yep. Usually at least once a week we're on there looking at any comments that may have come
Yeah.
in. So definitely drop us a comment and we'd love to connect with you. And yeah, so we'll be putting this out this will be Thanksgiving week actually, which is kind of
Yes.
fun. So Thanksgiving week, hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving and had a lot of fun with family or friends. And yeah,
And let us know what you're thankful for as well.
yeah, that'd be great to know as well. So are you thankful for Tudor Homes? Anyway, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye.
Today we are diving deep into the we're
There's
not
not going
diving
to be
deep.
many outtakes on this one,
No,
is there?
not at all. None. Zero outtakes, clearly. Well, we don't do a lot of scripting, so normally there's a lot of free flow. So, all right.